Welcome, wrestling fans, to another episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic for Friday, August 26th. I am your host, Lance Brock. Thank you for tuning in today, wherever you are, wherever you're listening at, whatever podcast site you're listening to us on. Whether you're listening to on YouTube, thank you for listening. It means a lot. And before I get started with today's episode, quick reminder to check out the last special presentation, I guess you could call it, from 360 Wrestling Podcast. The first ever 360 unboxing, as myself and my nephew Bruiser Brody, who has appeared on podcasts before, we unbox the August 2022 Pro Wrestling Crate. You can either listen to the audio version or you can watch the video on the 360 Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel. That is 360 Unboxing Pro Wrestling Crate for August 2022. Make sure you either listen to that or better yet maybe watch the video on the 360 YouTube channel. And now let's get into today's episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. This episode is just going to be a quick week in pro wrestling. Unfortunately, didn't do any other than the unboxing. Didn't do any recaps this week. So I'm going to talk about a couple of things from each episode of pro wrestling this week. Let's start off Monday with Raw. We have the return of Johnny Gargano returning to WWE, which is not really a surprise at all. One of Triple H's guys from the NXT days. He made his return and then was interrupted by Theory with his Money in the Bank briefcase. And these two, I think, had a pretty good back and forth together in the ring. On to Tuesday, NXT 2.0. And just one quick thing though, also on Monday Night Raw, we once again see Samuel Shaw. But this time he had somebody kind of help him out, cause a distraction, and then he made his way through the crowd on the other side. But still showing up on Raw, causing trouble each week. And then on to NXT 2.0 Tuesday night, where we saw him again, Samuel Shaw, make his return to NXT. And yes, I'm aware I'm still saying Samuel Shaw. I forgot his, his WWE name, but I'm sure anybody listening to this right now is probably screaming his name right now, but for now, I'll just keep calling him Samuel Shaw. And he was reunited with Indy Hartwell, and then he left again, so who knows what's going to happen there. Possibly we could see her show up on the main roster with him. with him being on Raw recently. Could see him there. And we find out there will be unification matches at the next NXT Special Worlds Collide with the NXT Championships and NXT UK. So that should be pretty interesting. And that's going to be a big wrestling weekend because that Saturday we have WWE Clash at the Castle. And then the day after is NXT Worlds Collide at, I want to say, 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And then later that night is AEW All Out, which brings us to AEW Dynamite for Wednesday. And this one, I was surprised. Not only that they decided to move the world title match, the unification world title match, between the AEW World Champion CM Punk and the interim AEW World Champion Jon Maxley. Very short match and a dominant match by Jon Maxley becoming the AEW World Champion. And now the question is, what's going to happen at All Out as far as the world title match is concerned? Will we have a rematch between Jon Maxley and CM Punk, or will they determine a new challenger to face Jon Maxley in the main event of All Out? It will definitely be interesting to see at Dynamite this Wednesday, or I don't know if they'll say anything on Rampage tonight, but it will be interesting to see. But the only bad, it's kind of funny though that it's only 1 week to build, which 1 week from this Sunday is All Out, and not quite sure what the world title match is going to be in the main event at the pay-per-view. But who knows? AEW has delivered, in my opinion anyway, every pay-per-view. So definitely have to wait and see what happens there in the world title picture. Also, we find out that the AEW Women's Champion Thunder Rosa is injured and will have to relinquish the championship, unfortunately. And at All Out, we will crown an AEW Interim Women's Champion. And it is real unfortunate about Thunder Rosa being injured and having to give up the championship just right after CM Punk came back after having to do the same thing due to an injury. And last night, Impact Wrestling is on the road to Bound for Glory. The Impact World Champion Josh Alexander defeated Vincent from Honor No More, as he will be facing Honor No More's leader, Eddie Edwards, in the main event at Bound for Glory for the Impact World Championship, October 5th. But first, Impact has September 20th, an Impact Plus special and YouTube Ultimate Insiders Victory Road. always look forward to Bound for Glory every year. This year it is from Albany, New York. And now on to tonight. We have WWE Friday Night Smackdown from right here in Detroit at the Little Caesars Arena, where I was back in June for Aew Dynamite to watch Blood and Guts live. But since I am home recording the podcast right now, I will not be attending SmackDown Live tonight, unfortunately. But who knows, maybe next time they come back here to Detroit, we'll be able to make it to Little Caesars Arena. And then after SmackDown, we got AEW Rampage on TNT. Hopefully we'll do a show, maybe I should say do a podcast, a recap on SmackDown and Rampage tonight. Fingers crossed. But we'll just have to wait and see, so stay tuned to 360 Wrestling Podcast. That's why the best thing to do is either subscribe to the podcast feed, either here on Spreaker or Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, iHeartRadio, anywhere else you can find podcasts. Subscribe so you automatically get when there's a new episode. And like and subscribe, all that good stuff too. Also subscribe to the 360 Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel. Remember, 360 Unboxing with my nephew Bruiser Brody, unboxing the August 2002 Pro Wrestling Crate from Pro Wrestling Tees. Also, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, anything you want to say, 360 Wrestling Podcast at gmail.com. And if you want to support 360 Wrestling Podcast, if you want to give us a little bit to, like they say, keep the lights on, you don't have to. Doesn't have to be much either if you can. Anchor.fm/360-wrestling-podcast360. Also, www.streamlabs.com/360 Wrestling Podcast. I'll put that in the description. If, like I said, if you want to help out, it would be very much appreciated. And that is all for this episode of 360 Wrestling Fanatic. Episode 310. Till the next time, I'll be right here. I am Lance, and I am a wrestling fanatic.